A common question that we get in at the psychology clinic is, why do I have these mood swings all of the time? And how can I, control my emotions or regulate my mood in some way? And it's a very good question, and I don't think that there is a, short, sharp, simple answer. There could be a whole variety of different reasons why we experience mood change. It might be hormonal. We might be going through a stage of our adolescence or our later life where our hormones start to change, and it's well established that that can affect our mood. It might have been what we ate for breakfast or for lunch or for dinner. If we have, high levels of simple sugars, well, that sugar gets burned up really quickly and we've got lots of energy and lots of excitement, but then we crash shortly afterwards. And oftentimes people feel depressed as a result of what they've eaten. But it's also the trans fats and the hydrogenated fats. Neuroscience has demonstrated now that this stuff can actually block the dopamine neurochemicals in our brain, so we're not able to focus properly. It's like our brain is in a bit of a fog, and whatever we think impacts upon our emotions. But there's also a genetic component as well. New science has discovered that people can be born with a short allele on their 5-HT gene, and this gene regulates the secretion of the neurochemical serotonin in our brain. Now, serotonin, a lot of people have heard of this chemical these days. It's a well-being chemical, and if our well-being chemical is disrupted, then of course we can't be very well. But the good news is, even though you might be genetically predisposed to have mood swings, the gene is not the end of the story. What neuroscience is now discovering is that it is your mind that determines how the gene is activated. So what goes on up here plays such an essential role in changing or regulating our biology. So your biology does not determine who you are or what you do. Your mind, which is not your brain, determines that. And that is exciting. We are the driver of our own car. So if we are experiencing mood swings, whether it be genetics, whether it be diet, whether it be hormonally related, or whether it just be I'm a creative person and I go from, in my typical personality, I go from these highest highs to these lowest of lows as I create wonderful symphonies or great art, and then I critically appraise it and I go, that's no good, and I kind of come down. Well, it's healthy to have ups and downs. We call it a heartbeat. If you're flatlining, it means you're dead. We just don't want that heartbeat to be too extreme. We don't want them to be too high, and we don't want those lows to be too low. Some of the great faith heroes throughout the ages, they too have struggled with mood difficulties. I think King David is one of the funniest, because he often just gets whingy and complaining, and he's like, things aren't going the way I want them to, and he has this big spit at God. He just tells God off. He's like, I am not happy here. But he does something amazing. He does a complete turnaround. If you read through any psalm, usually there's this big angry start, and then he pauses midway through and says, and yet I'm going to still consider your ancient wonders of ways. Still, yet again, let me go over one by one all the things that you have done throughout the ages. And when we start to once again focus on the positive things, we can ultimately have a renewing of our mind. And that's what happens in the end of most of David's rants at God. He turns around and he says, you God, you're holy, like you can do anything. And if that's true, well, then you can also change the circumstances that are going on in my life as well. Always keep a check of how you're currently going. Where am I at? Am I doing okay? If I'm a little bit down, I need to raise myself up. Let me go and get some exercise. Let me go ahead and socialize. Let me get some proper sleep. Let me eat some good, healthy food. And let me renew my mind. Let me think about the things that are right and pure and good and just, because it is ultimately laying hold every thought captive, as it says in ancient scriptures. That is ultimately what gets to determine how well I function emotionally.